Hey guys, this is Will, and today I'm going to talk about the 11th series of Doctor Who. This season is the biggest shakeup Doctor Who's had in years. In addition to Jodie Whittaker taking over the role of the Doctor and a new crew of companions, we have Chris Chibnall taking over the show from Stephen Moffat. Right off the bat, I gotta say my favorite part of this whole season was Whittaker. She killed it. Her Doctor is one of the most fun takes on the character overall. I don't think the 13th Doctor, within the context of this season, is maybe the most fleshed out Doctor we've ever had, but Jodie Whittaker steals every single scene she's in, and she's always a blast to watch. And by the end of the season, I warmed up to all the companions in their own way. Graham and Ryan have a really, really good dynamic with each other, and while I don't really feel like the writers always knew what to do with Yaz, she was still a really enjoyable and overall just kind of pleasant presence to have on the show. While the writing was a little uneven at times, there were some really, really great episodes, and one that I'd even consider an all-time classic. I think my biggest criticism, honestly, coming away from a solid, good but not great season, is that Chibnall wrote way too much. And it's not that I necessarily think that he's a bad writer. It's just that for the most part, he demonstrated that he's a decent writer. And when you're writing half of the season, the problem is that's just a large chunk of the season caught in just basically being decent. Fortunately, in the latter half of the season, a lot of the newer writers brought it. Vinay Patel wrote a great episode about Yaz's grandmother, and Joy Wilkinson wrote an episode about witch hunting with King James that I thought was a lot of fun. By far my favorite of the bunch, however, was Ed Hymes' episode, It Takes You Away. Everything about that episode was pretty much perfect to me. From the writing, to the acting, to the music, to the way it's directed. It was just a stupendous episode of television, and an absolutely outstanding episode of Doctor Who, and one of my favorite episodes of the revived series. It also goes to show just how awesome Whittaker can be when given the right acting ammunition, so to speak. There's a final scene in that episode that cemented her as one of the best doctors of the entire show in my book. And while the season at first seemed to go off on a good episode that didn't function very well as a finale, fortunately we got that New Year's special that wrapped things up pretty perfectly. With the 13th Doctor and her friends finally getting to go up against a classic Who monster. And it was a great episode that I think showed that Chibnall has a little bit more writing chops than he demonstrated in some of his earlier episodes of the series. I also like that the episodes took on a more topical and even political approach. It's something that I've seen a lot of people complain about, but I'm not going to pretend that that really makes a lot of sense to me. I didn't think that the topics that these episodes approached were very controversial. It's the kind of thing that I think, regardless of where you stand politically, it's at least logically presented, and I don't really understand why anybody made a fuss out of it. Honestly, Doctor Who's always been at least a little bit political. It's always brought ideas forward that are intended to be challenging, and I think that this season does a pretty good job of that. I don't really understand why I've seen so many comments from people complaining about it, because that's been the case for the show's entire history. So, yeah. Anywho, sorry, that was terrible. Doctor Who Series 11 is another solid series of Doctor Who. It's probably not one of my favorites, but it's definitely not one of my least favorites either, and it's certainly one that I want to rewatch soon. There's a certain quality, and it might just be the directing. They used IMAX cameras, which is pretty sweet, but there's a certain quality about it that I definitely find attractive, and I can't wait to rewatch a lot of these episodes, especially It Takes You Away, which was just, again, perfect. And I'm gonna give Doctor Who Series 11 a B. Yep, it's pretty darn good. Alright, peace out, y'all.